held in abeyance, so you have a holding position. We don't get to decide, the chair doesn't get to decide, give a ruling on this application, but it's held in abeyance until an unknown time, when you eventually will come back and say, now I'm ready to supplement or to file a replying affidavit. But that cannot be. I think you have only two options. You either argue this application and say, we've made out a case. And on the, because I'm not going to speak to you about you can make a case in the replying affidavit. I think you fairly conceded to the chairperson that as a matter of procedure or process, you can't do that. So you have pleaded a case in the founding affidavit. It's either good or bad. You stand or fall by it. Your alternative is you withdraw that application and refile a new application whenever you do that, and matters and the prevailing position on the second option would be we don't have an in-camera application until you file a new application. It's that, yeah, I think you can respond to that if you want, but it seems to me that's the position that must prevail.
Thank you for the opportunity to reply. Commissioner, you took me from paragraph 10 to the conclusion, but in fact there are further matters in the affidavit of the evidence leaders that talk to this issue holistically.
You can point me to that
if I may take you to paragraph 4.
Yes.
Paragraph 4 is not an unqualified opposition. They say so, it's a qualified opposition. But more importantly, the concession is already made by the evidence leaders in paragraph 4 that some of General Khan's evidence may very well be held in camera.
Yes, no, that's not my debate with you. Yeah. What I'm saying to you is read 20, the conclusion. The conclusion is clear that on what the evidence leaders are saying is on this application, you haven't made out a case to be heard in camera. They may hold the view that some of it, some of what he may well be testifying to, given what they know now, because investigations have been done, certain evidence has been collected. So the evidence leaders may well hold that position, that there is some evidence that's going to have to be in camera. But on this application, as it stands, you haven't made out a case. That's why they invite you to reformulate. You can't ignore 23.2 because that will be selective reading. You can't ignore it. In 23.2, they say you have to make a new application. Now dealing with what it is that you identify as in camera. And my proposition to you, what I'm saying to you is, until there is a new application, we have to decide this application, or you withdraw this application and then bring a new application, because that's the invitation they're making to you.
I'm in agreement with you that we cannot read this affidavit as a compartment, and we've got to read it holistically. And you refer me to one portion in addition to paragraph 10. I say that read holistically, the concession is fairly made by the evidence leaders in paragraph 4 and paragraph 5 of their affidavit, where they concede that certain portions of his evidence may have to be led in camera. And they then concede in paragraph 5, the evidence leaders do not dispute that genuinely sensitive information may be appropriately protected. Now, what Commissioner puts to me is an election. Elect whether you are proceeding, or elect if you're withdrawing. Yes. And I say to the Honorable Commissioner that I do not have a replying affidavit. Presently, I do not have a client that can instruct me further. And I'm asking for an indulgence to get back to the drawing board with my client if and when he becomes available, so that I may better then address the concerns that have been raised by the evidence leaders. I ask that you not close that door on me, given the circumstances, and they are extenuating circumstances. So allow me the opportunity, whether at that stage to withdraw and bring a new application, or at that stage to fairly concede what the evidence leaders want. But at this stage, because of the events of Sunday night, I sit before you with no replying affidavit and without a client able to say to me, do X, Y, and Z. Now, when I'm put to that election that I must withdraw this application without a mandate, I'm then on thin ice.
Yes. Why would it be to close the door to you if this application is decided on what we have in front of us? Why would that preclude you, or how would that preclude you from bringing a new application, as invited by the evidence leaders?
The way in which I understand what is said by the evidence leaders, holistically in the affidavit, is come to us, come engage with us, whether it is by affidavit or in person, and let's talk about and discuss what ought to be in camera, because the concession is fairly made that some matters potentially ought to be in camera. I hear you saying, well, why can't that process unfold later and this application be dismissed? My answer to that is one does not seek a duplication of processes before you. One also doesn't wish to create the impression that an in-camera application has been abandoned on the merits of it. And we are alive to what is happening both inside and outside this commission.
Yeah, no, Mr. Khan, you can't be asking us to make rulings on the basis of what's happening outside the commission. We've got papers in front of us.
Yes.
Before the incident of Sunday, you prepared an application and you were satisfied this meets the requirements for an in-camera application. You must have been convinced that you will succeed, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have filed the kind of affidavit that you have filed. So you are confident, you and General Khan, before Sunday, were confident you've made out a case for an in-camera hearing. It doesn't take the evidence leaders to say you have not made out a case for you to say, well, I now need to do a new application, I need to supplement. It shouldn't even get there, right? When the evidence leaders say this application or this founding affidavit on its terms does not make a case for an in-camera hearing, you can't hold on to that and say, therefore, I'm entitled to do a supplementary or to be given an opportunity to consult with my client so that I get more. It doesn't work that way. You stand and fall by your founding affidavit, and as you concede in your replying affidavit, you don't make a case. In ordinary circumstances, you would have been only allowed to introduce new matter that you couldn't have anticipated that comes out of the answering affidavit. Then you would deal it in the replying affidavit. That's not the kind of situation here. What we have here is you have pleaded certain headings. General Khan has pleaded certain headings and says this heading qualifies to be heard in camera. And there's quite a number of them. And the engagement with the chairperson, between you and the chairperson, is to say, well, on those headings, you haven't made a case for an in-camera hearing. That the evidence leaders take that point with you, because that's exactly what they've done. That they take that point with you does not create a door for you to say, well, I need to file another affidavit, and until then you can't hear this application, this in-camera application. It just doesn't work that way. Effectively, what you are seeking is you seek to hold the hand of the commission in abeyance until eventually you are able to consult and get instructions from General Khan, whenever that will be, because that's effectively what your submissions is. Then we have this floating application, which is not being heard, which is not being decided, because you can't help your circumstances. Your client is in the position that you describe. And so we can't do anything about that part unless you can reach agreement. But in fact, even the agreement hinges on you getting instructions from your client. So we're pretty much in that same space. It's not as if it gets better. You know, when we say, if the decision is go and consult with the evidence leaders, you would still say, I need instructions from my clients. And you've described him to be in no position at this point to make to give instructions. So Either way, it doesn't seem like the commission wins. You know, things will roll out in the way that we'll see eventually, but that cannot be. The point I'm making, or I seek to make, is we do have an application before us. If the final determination on this application is that a case has not been made out, then you must lose, or General Khan, the application must be dismissed if a case has not been made out. The evidence leaders have indicated what they consider in the answering affidavit as matter that doesn't require an in-camera hearing. You get the opportunity to address that. You may disagree with that, and that's a matter that will have to be determined. But they've indicated what it is that they consider not to be matter that qualifies for an in-camera hearing. If your application is dismissed and the evidence leaders are allowed to continue, or you agree with them that the matter that they've identified can run without an in-camera hearing, nothing precludes you from bringing a new application that now deals with other matter that you say warrants an in-camera hearing. You may even want to canvass the same topics, but this time with better information that is of assistance to determine that application. It seems to me that's the way that it can only proceed. Otherwise, we're going to be sitting in limbo for an indefinite period. And that does affect the workings of the Commission.
If I may have an opportunity to respond and to take an instruction from my attorney. Regarding the observation that the Commission will be held in limbo, General Khan is obviously not disposed to tender evidence presently. So the application talks to his evidence. And if he, and rather than put the cart before the horse, if his evidence is not coming, then the issues surrounding the in-camera application for present purposes are moot. So if this application were then to follow at a time when, if and when he is ripe to testify, if we get there, then obviously this application must talk to that set of facts. Currently this application, I hear you to say, is holding the hand of the Commission. I do not understand that aspect because the Commission's work continues as it is.
It relates to the evidence of General Khan. That's what I meant. And I thought you would understand. I'm speaking specifically to the evidence of General Khan.
And that affects the scheduling. That affects the scheduling because, for example, there will be no witness on Friday. There will be no witness on Monday. So it affects the scheduling. That's the context in which Commissioner Balo is, amongst others, making the point that she's making.
If I may take the instruction, please. Thank you for the opportunity, Chairperson and Commissioners. Our position is that we don't wish to hamstring the work of the Commission. As regards the evidence of General Khan and what is to unfold, we're told by the evidence leader at this point in time that they will be addressing you on Friday morning. May I have the opportunity till Friday morning to consider my position and then communicate and engage with them? It might very well be that we can limit issues with them, and then we report back to you on Friday morning.
Mr. Khan, if we were in motion court, you would be asking a judge to remove your matter from the roll because the judge would have raised difficulties with your application, and you would be aware that if you were to proceed, it's likely to be dismissed. So the mic is, yeah. So that's where you find yourself, and speaking for myself, I understand your difficulty because you are counsel. You don't have the authority to withdraw or to tender a withdrawal. You would need to take instructions. But it seems to me that the proper thing would be for you to say the application should be removed from your roll today, and your attorneys will decide what to do with it. They may very well, give a notice of withdrawal. But you seem to be understanding Commissioner Baloyi's position because none of what she says prevents General Khan from bringing the same application properly motivated. Because even your notice of motion, your prayer too, as it stands, I have serious difficulties with it. So it's not a simple case of just supplementing or filing a replying affidavit. You need to fix your notice of motion as well. So it makes sense to me that the application has to be withdrawn, and if you are so instructed, you file a proper motivated application that deals with the issues that you want to be heard in camera. Because as it stands, those are not there. It's just blanket statements that we do not understand. So with that in mind, maybe without wasting any further time, just tell us what you want to do, and Chair will consider that and we will move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. I've heard you say that without giving legal advice, a prudent course might be to simply remove the application. And I'll ask that we remove the application from your roll.
Thank you very much. The removal is yours. It's not done by us. So I assume that we must take the application as removed.
Thank you very much.
All right. In the interim, and regarding any concerns General Khan and you, the legal representatives, might have with regard to possible prejudice, I would refer you to paragraph 23.4 at page 33 of the answering affidavit. There, the evidence leaders make a fair point. The evidence, they say, I quote, the evidence leaders will engage General Khan and his legal team on how to present evidence on the remaining topics in a manner which does not compromise confidential crime intelligence information or prejudice the safety of informants or undercover agents. So it's not as if Ms. Hassim intends to, on Friday, just start leading evidence without that engagement having taken place. This means that Ms. Hassim, as all of us actually should, accepts the fact that with an intelligence operative, there should indeed be intelligence-related matters which should not be aired publicly, security-related and even confidential, all of which should not, as I say, be aired publicly. Ms. Hassim understands that, and because of that understanding, she's willing to engage with General Khan, but because you say he is not conscious at the moment, I thought you said, that means Ms. Khan will engage with you, General Khan's legal representatives, to you accepted that, for example, that this application is not saying we should, what should be aired publicly is Eratin only. So you accept that there's more than just that. So that's the ground which will be covered by the engagement between the two sides, as it were. So in a sense, this provides somewhat of a cushion.
Yes, Chairperson, there is some comfort in this statement here.
Yes.
And that is why I prefaced my address to you with my desire to engage with the evidence leaders and see how we can come to some resolution.
Yes. No, thank you. Thank you very much then. This is closed. The application is withdrawn, so this discussion is closed. But, yes. No, I did say we cannot withdraw. There's an issue or two that I wish to address, Mr. Khan. Up to today, we have never had to follow, interact with, pronounce on, or engage with issues that are out there in the media. But this time around, I do wish to raise issues that were in the media. Here's the background. Our spokesperson, Mr. Jeremy Michaels, picked up an interview that was conducted by Ms. Zianda Ngobo, and she was interviewing you. Our spokesperson was quite concerned by some of the things that you said, and he suggested to the Commission that a media statement should be issued addressing those issues that concerned him. After discussion within the Commission, the view taken was that rather these issues should be raised here in open session with you. I will commence to do just that. At what time did General Khan serve his papers on the Commission? It was Sunday night, was it not?
That's correct.
At what time?
My attorney is checking right now.
It is at 4 minutes past 11 on Sunday night, Chair.
4 minutes past 11, yes. And at what time is General Khan supposed to have been shot?
If I may. We do not say with certainty, but it appears to be approximately 11:30.
11:30. Now I want to refer you to a response. We have a transcript of the interview.
Chair, we could provide a copy of that transcript to my learned friend.
Oh, you did?
I'm not
Sorry.
certain when. I don't have it in front
No,
of me.
I'm saying we could provide a copy
all right.
as you addressing these
All right.
issues, so he has it in front of him.
Perhaps we should adjourn very briefly, and you can indicate as soon as that has been done. We'll just wait outside here.
It won't be long, Chair, so don't go upstairs.
Sorry?
I said we won't be long, so
No,
don't go
I'm saying
upstairs.
I'm saying we'll stand outside
Okay.
here.
Thank you.
Let's adjourn.
All right, we are ready to resume. Please make sure that your devices are quiet. Thank you.
Well, the last question I asked was what time General Khan was shot or is supposed to have been shot. You said around 11:30. Was it not in fact earlier than that?
Chairperson, I have not spoken with the police, neither have I seen any of their investigations. You will remember that I bent over to my attorney and asked him, and that is what was communicated to me. So,
oh my God,
independently, I'm unable to answer that question.
Somebody took my laptop and my copy of the transcript. Oh gosh. Yeah, perhaps. But before we stand down waiting for my laptop, you may counter this if you want to end indeed as you are free to or at liberty to. I have here something posted by Mr. Bule Lichwidi Jones of ENCA on X. I assume that a tweet is still a tweet, it's not an X, even though the platform is now X. And it says, at ENCA, and then arrived on the scene around 23:18. The incident happened just after 2300 hours, we are told. But what's important is he's already there. He's there at 23:18, so obviously before past. And he says he's told that the incident happened at 2300 hours. Would you have a basis for saying that that is not so?
No, I was not at the scene. I was informed much later, and I did not arrive at the scene.
No, I'm asking a different question.
I don't have a basis.
You would not be able to say that is not correct.
I'm not able to.
You are not able to say so. All right. Now, here's my difficulty. You suggest in the interview, you mentioned the unfortunate death, obviously there, even though you don't mention the name, it's obviously a reference to witness D or Mr. Marius van der Merwe. You say a witness that testified at the commission has passed on, and you then mention the fact that the application was served, and then you suggest that there is or must be a leak within the commission. Everything looked at in context, you are suggesting that General Khan may well have been shot as a result of that leak. Because if you are not suggesting that, why else mention this? Am I interpreting your response correctly?
No.
Please tell me what your interpretation is. Why would you have mentioned the leak or the possible leak, and why would you have mentioned the death of Mr. Marius van der Merwe?
Yes. So your Chairperson and Honorable Commissioners, you will notice from this transcript that was just provided to me, and I don't doubt its authenticity, that at the beginning of the transcript, I indicated that I'm reading a statement on behalf of the family. Present with me was my attorney and members of the family standing around, and I was instructed to read the statement. I had also obtained my impressions of that morning and the concerns, and I place it in context, from the family. Now, the context of that morning were, and these are also my experiences when I arrived at the hospital, that there were members of various different units at the hospital attempting to get access to General Khan to confirm whether he is in fact seriously injured or what circumstances are. But then turning specifically to the question itself, which appears at page 7 of the transcript, and if I may read it for us, Ms. Ngobo says the following, and in fact, maybe I should pause because you referenced something about Mr. Pule. I have not spoken with Mr. Pule, but that's a separate issue.
That's just for timing, and I'm still to zoom in on that. I'm
Yes.
still to zoom in on that.
So, Ms. Ngobo says, because the impression that I am getting now is that immediately after you delivered papers to the Madlanga Commission, this happened. In other words, that affidavit firstly would implicate possible other high-ranking officials, which would then by implication to an extent mean that perhaps you also would have a leak of some sort, either on your side or maybe on the commission side. My answer to that, sorry, let me finish it. Am I misunderstanding the way that this has been framed? My answer to that, well, at this point, it is speculative. And the speculation that I receive is from the information from the family expressing their concerns that morning in respect of a man that is shot, that is in ICU, and that is being rumored to be losing his life. I say further, it is speculative, but we do have concerns. Now, the concerns that I'm speaking about are based on the following, amongst others, and I'm again cautious to speak in the media. The question was, is there a leak on your side or a leak in the commission? And I say it is speculative, but we have concerns. And we do, in fact, have concerns about leaks on our side. We also have concerns that have been expressed to us, for example, that, and I'm traversing other issues such as the police raid at the premises of General Khan, that the media were in fact there before the police arrived. One person who appeared before the commission has already been murdered. This is something, and it appears elsewhere in this report, and it's also reported by the different journalists. Did General Khan fear for his life? He communicated directly to me and my attorney seated next to me that in light of all of these events, and he specifically mentioned the murder of somebody that appeared before the commission, that he feared for himself. And you'll see in this report, I say, he used different vehicles, he took different routes, and he consulted his legal team at different locations. I go on to say there had been an attempt on General Khan's life as he was to appear before the commission, and there is grave concern that there might be a compromise within the commission. General Khan had expressed to my attorney and myself that in fact his team was the unit that did the security services for the commission itself. Now this is not to say, and I say this unqualifiedly, that this is not to say that there is a leak within the commissioners, within the evidence leaders, but there are police officers involved in these incidences that General Khan was concerned about. And that concern was carried over by his family to the police trying to get access to him on the morning of the incident. But lastly, I say, and I qualify this, but at this stage it is speculative, it is speculated by the family, if that assists, Commissioner.
You see, this is not only about what you intended to convey, but it is also about how reasonable listeners would have understood this. You are saying this in the context of General Khan having been shot. And in that context, you mention leaks or compromise. Or what did you mean by compromise? I understood it, and I believe myself to be a reasonable listener. I understood you to be referring to leaks from or by the commission.
Absolutely not.
And I also understood that to go back to the context in which General Khan was shot. So all of that, when you look at it holistically, it suggests that we served the commission late last night. He gets shot after service of the documents, and there are leaks within the commission. When you look at the totality of all that, it does suggest, or it may reasonably suggest to a reasonable listener, that you are basically saying that as a result of the leak, General Khan, or rather, General Khan may well have been shot as a result of the leak from the commission. That would, or that's a possible way in which a reasonable listener would have understood what you said.
May I reply?
Yes.
I unqualifiedly before you and the media say that that is not my instructions, and that is most certainly not what I intended to communicate to the media with my attorney and family members of General Khan present.
Thank you. May I say this then? If you are ever to make media briefings again, be careful of what you say and don't say anything that may tend to impugn the integrity of this commission. You should be very careful about that.
I note what you say.
Are you within what's colloquially referred to as the organized bar, or are you a so-called independent?
Organized bar.
Organized bar. Well, as I know them, having been a member of the so-called organized bar for many, many years, there was, I'm not saying there should still be, because even within the bar sometimes there may be disagreement, but there was a rule that said members of the bar can only go out to the media, be interviewed and make statements to the media after having received permission from their bar. Otherwise, you don't just go out there and make. I repeat, I'm not saying that that rule should still continue to exist. Perhaps some might even say, does that not infringe the right to freedom of expression, and so on and so on. But the point I make is, if that rule still exists, and without it having been removed from the rules of the so-called organized bar, I wonder whether you got the permission, or if you didn't, what your basis for engaging in this in the first place was. But anyway, that's not for me. I'm just stating that that's how, as someone who once was a practitioner, that's how I know the rules to have been. I don't know if they still are. Anyway, you have said that that was not your intention, and I've already admonished you never ever to make statements that may tend to impugn the integrity of the commission. Let me move on to a second issue. I'm trying to find the page number. Anyway, let me just read this. You say there has been some contact with the Madlanga Commission, and we understand that they have directed representatives to arrive at the hospital to confirm that General Khan has in fact been shot, or alternatively whether this is something less serious than what it is made out to be. Who is supposed to have given this directive?
My attorney is looking for the correspondence right now.
All right, all right.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, yes.
My attorney has instructed me in relation to this, and of course, the comment that I made is what I was instructed and obtained from my attorney. He refreshes my memory that there was correspondence on the morning, which is, I think it's the 29th of June, 2026, from the Commission's attorney, Diale, in which they seek information. We request that you urgently inform the Commission of the facts within your knowledge concerning the incident, including the extent and nature of the injuries and the expected period of recovery. They then go on to say, also provide the Commission with a medical report from Major General Khan's attending physician. When I got to the hospital, I was instructed by my attorney and also advised by members of the police that were present at the scene, as well as members of the family, that persons had arrived at the reception area at the hospital, indicating that they were from the Madlanga Commission and that they wanted to interview General Khan. We also engaged with the security provided by the medical facility, indicating that they had resisted attempts by police and media, and I believe, if I recollect correctly, people saying that they are from the Madlanga Commission and wanting to get into the ward.
This is something quite serious because once I became aware of this and that there was a directive of that nature would only have come from me, I gave no such directive. And I asked around amongst all senior functionaries within the commission if they knew anything about that. And the response I got was that nobody knew anything about this. So what you are saying now comes as a surprise to me. And it's quite serious, actually, because it suggests the possibility that some people may have gone to the hospital and wrongly presented themselves as coming from the commission. Are you able to give us the supposed timing of this?
We will attempt to get the information and present it to you. My attorney is with me. My attorney asked for permission to address you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, we shared your concern at the morning, on the morning just after the shooting. Now, I was present shortly after the shooting at the hospital because when I received the call, it was approximately around 11:30 the evening after General Khan had left my offices. We weren't entirely sure that there was in fact a shooting, so I responded to the scene. By the time that I arrived there, General Khan had already been evacuated to Mill Park Hospital. I then made my way there. Now, there was lots of things happening. There were lots of people around, but at the very least, we knew that General Khan was in safe care because he was in a restricted ward. I believe it's the emergency ward. And people are not usually permitted access to come and see the patient except in certain limited circumstances. When I arrived the next morning, that was purely out of concern to come and see the condition of General Khan so that we can anticipate what is going to occur when we come and appear at the Commission today. En route to the hospital, I received several calls, firstly from family members, secondly from hospital management staff, and thirdly from people that I had asked to go and be present because I couldn't make it early enough for lack of sleep. And there was, call it a unified response from all three parties that I had interacted with, that there were many persons claiming to be members of the South African police, some who claimed that they were authorized by the Madlanga Commission to come and determine what General's medical condition was. Our impression from that was that there was an acceptance or perhaps a view that General wasn't in fact shot, and all of this was simply a red herring created or crafted in order to avoid having to testify at the Commission today. There were persons of the police who claimed to be from the PKTT as well. Another faction of police came from DPC. I believe that's the Provincial Commissioner's Office, and there were also policemen from the Norwood Police Station. Now, we are receiving, or we confronted with this assault of persons demanding that they have an audience and that they be permitted access to General Khan's condition. So we simply put in a blanket policy to say, let hospital management intervene in order to stop all of this, because we need to sort the wheat from the chaff. We need to know who's authorized to be there, who's not authorized to be there, and whether or not they are willing to demonstrate any identity that allows us to confirm or refute that they are in fact SEP's personnel. What I'm trying to say, Chair, is that we were unable to determine who was making which allegation, but I can confirm now that there was a party claiming to be police personnel who attended at the hospital and tried to portray that they entered under cover of this Commission's permission to come and determine General Khan's physical state. I think that may satisfy your question, Chair. If there's anything else, I'm happy to remain on the mic.
And did you tell Advocate Khan that the people who did this were either police or people who presented themselves as police? Did you tell Advocate Khan that?
Well, the message that I had expressed to General Advocate Khan was that we are uncertain who is police and who is not. But one of the parties who claimed to be police said that they are authorized by the Madlanga Commission to be at the hospital, to extract documents, to have access to his medical file, and to physically look at General Khan's physical appearance.
For purposes of the transcript, can you please state your full names for the record?
Thank you. I'm Mohammed Veli. I'm General Khan's attorney of record in this and other proceedings.
Yes, thank you. I must tell you outright that there is no way that I or the Commission would ever send police to go check on anybody who say is in hospital. That just cannot happen. And I would imagine that anybody applying their minds closely and carefully should realize that we would never do that as a Commission. I mean, we have so many functionaries within this Commission, so many.
Yes.
We have how many evidence leaders now? 9, 8, give or take, evidence leaders, some of them quite senior. We have a chief investigator who's assisted by 4 or 5 other investigators. We have our commission secretary. We have the commission's spokesperson. I think I've mentioned all the senior functionaries. I hope I have. If we were ever minded to do any such thing, we have never done it before. There's correspondence between the attorneys on the other side and the commission's attorneys indicate what they want to do, for example, which is what happened with another witness who has medical problems. There's that engagement. And even there are instances of hospitalization. The commission has never just pounced on that witness at hospital. It has never happened. So coming back to you, Mr. Khan, I find it very strange that on something so nebulous, you could have gone out to the media and said, you understand, I think that's the word you use, that there's a directive from the commission for people to go check on General Khan, to check on the various aspects that you itemized in that media interview. How you could do that on something so nebulous, it just escapes me altogether.
Chair, you would recall
Sorry,
earlier
General, maybe, sorry, Mr. Khan, maybe before you respond, let me add this to this conversation that you made. I think it's important that you clarify it in your response. In fact, in that part of the transcript, you said there has been some contact with the Madlanga Commission. Now, that's not true unless your attorney has been in touch on this topic, because I'm reading at page 8, right at the bottom. You say there has been some contact with the Madlanga Commission, and we understand that they have directed representatives to arrive. A reading of that, in fact, understanding, having followed that interview, it represented that you or your attorney or somebody has spoken to the Commission representatives, and they've understood, and from that, they understand that the Commission intends to send people to go and verify the truthfulness of what was reported in the media. And it is important that you clarify whether there was such a contact with the Commission.
My attorney asks to address this.
Yes, he may.
Yes, Mr. Valley.
Thank you, Chair, Madam Commissioner. Yes, indeed. On the morning, while we were trying to clarify the role of the SEPS members that we found at the hospital when we arrived, Ms. Wilsnach, the Commission's attorney, had contacted me telephonically on my mobile phone, and she had indicated that correspondence would be sent addressing the issue. And I think that's what
that's the correspondence. That's the correspondence Mr. Khan read from.
Correct.
All right. Please continue.
Thank you. So I can confirm that there was in fact correspondence, or at least a discussion, on the very issue of that morning's occurrences with Ms. Wilsnach and myself.
But the context was totally different. It had nothing to do with a directive by the Commission after General Khan had been shot. So to refer to that, yes. To refer to this contact with the Madlanga Commission on something that had happened in the morning, and which had nothing to do whatsoever with the visit to the hospital on the Commission's directive, just doesn't make sense. Because it's all part of the same sentence.
Yes.
It's all part of the same sentence.
We appreciate that, Mr. Chair, but Mr. Chair must also consider from our perspective, we are confronted with these competing versions of various members of SEPS, in essence assaulting us with their justifications to be there and to be made privy to information which is otherwise confidential. And things happened very quickly thereafter. So to the extent that there may have been an impression or a misrepresentation made, we apologize. We're not trying to impute anything that this commission may have done wrong.
No, you are. You are imputing a directive by this commission that people sent by the commission must go to the hospital with the purpose of establishing all of the things that Mr. Khan said to the interviewer, Mr. Zianda Ngobo of Newsroom Africa. You are imputing something, so please don't even begin to say you are not imputing anything. Please, please.
Chair, I'll leave it at that. I will not.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thank
I will come to you, Ms. Hassim. Yes, Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to clarify. You will see from what I say.
Yes. I had asked a question to which there has been no response. I said, how could you have said this based on the nebulous information that has been placed before us now? How could you have said this publicly for all of South Africa to hear based on this very nebulous information? How could you?
Thank you for the opportunity. Chair, you will recall that on the morning, the hospital was full of police from different units, as indicated to you. We are communicating with the family. We are attempting to get information from the doctors. I'm taking instruction from my attorney. And hence I say, we understand that they have been directed, that they have directed representatives. I don't say they have. That is simply the understanding that is conferred upon us. Now, I'm getting this information from multiple sources. The hospital manager, my attorney, the family members. When I was at reception myself waiting to gain entry and I was refused, there were policemen that arrived at reception wanting entry on behalf of the commission. So when I report this, that we understand that they have been directed by the Madlanga Commission, I'm certainly not saying at that point in time that the Madlanga Commission did this. We're saying we understand, and we're getting this information from people that are arriving there. And Chair, you will recall.
Just articulate this understanding again, because I just felt that it doesn't convey what I'm seeing here. Just articulate your understanding.
So when I say we understand that they directed representatives to arrive at the hospital, I am getting this information from my attorney, from the family who have been there all night, with repeated swathes of policemen getting there, trying to have themselves access the hospital wards. We interacted with the hospital manager in respect of security from the hospital side. And of course, I had my own observations at the reception area.
So once somebody says they come from the Madlanga Commission, you simply accept that and publicize it without any question, without even seeking to establish its authenticity. You just go out there publicly and you say something like this about the commission.
Chair, we understand criticism that is being leveled at us, but these were all qualified as speculative. We are informed, we are told. This is in the first morning.
Yes, there was speculative, I think twice with regards to the first aspect I engaged you on. I do not see speculative here.
But I say we understand.
What difference does that make?
Well, the person applying their mind evenly to this thing will certainly understand that this is not concrete information. It's our understanding that's been conveyed.
You see the meaning you want to convey would apply to this or make sense if this was what you had said. And we understand that there were people who claimed to be representatives of the commission? Because I understand you to be making the point that I've just made. That is not what you said.
I respect
That is definitely not what you said.
I respect and accept your correction of what I intended to say. Certainly, I intended to say exactly what you've said at this moment.
And unfortunately, you did not. And
Unfortunately, I did not.
You conveyed something negative about the commission.
Yeah, in the moment, on live TV, with my attorney next to me, with multiple interviewers, it is unfortunate. And if there is any misapprehension or ambiguity,
let me not accept that there is. Let me just say you stated something wrong about the commission. If you want to say misapprehension, it must come from you. But you stated something wrong about the commission. Yes.
Unreservedly, I apologize to the commission. I see that it is open to multiple interpretations, and I apologize unreservedly.
Thank you. Ms. Hassim, it was indicated to me whilst I was looking that way that you wanted to say something, please.
Chair, in fact, at the point at which I was going to intervene, I was going to say that I don't need to be as restrained as the commissioners perhaps need to be in addressing this issue that the chair has raised. But then you went on. There are a couple of things that I must put on record from the perspective of the evidence leaders. This communication in the public with the media is of great concern to us because it does bring the work of the commission into disrepute. There can be no doubt about the impression that's created by these kind of remarks. Now, on this last point, on the first point, which is that the leak, the point of the leak, the answer, the prudent response would have been, I will not speculate, full stop.
I said I was going to come to the timing. I forgot, but let me leave it now. I think we've debated it, and Mr. Khan has tendered an unreserved apology, I think, in respect of both issues that I raised with you.
I confirm that.
Thank you. Please continue, Ms. Hassim.
Thank you, Chair. All I'm saying is that the answer, the appropriate answer would have been, I will not speculate, full stop. Nothing further. But instead, the comment went on to suggest a link between the filing of papers on the commission and the terrible incident that followed. Or, in fact, it didn't follow, according to the timeline. And this is important. Why don't we know? Because there's been no formal communication by General Khan's legal representatives with this commission until we specifically requested it. So on the 29th of June, the letter that my learned friend referred to says the following. It says, we note with concern, and it was sent in the morning, we note with concern the media reports that your client, Major General Khan, was shot last night. We are relieved to understand from those reports that Major General Khan survived the attack and is receiving medical care. We wish him a full and speedy recovery. That's the first thing. The second thing is, what we're trying to say is we're hearing this from the news. We're hearing this from media, from social media. It's not factual information on which we're entitled to simply rely without more, especially since we are engaged and have been engaged with General Khan's legal representatives for some time.
Actually, to add to that, as I said earlier, I don't have the page numbers. Mr. Khan says, I will not go to the question, but he says, we await an indication from the Madlanga Commission as to the way forward. So they themselves were choosing to remain supine, just folding their hands and doing nothing. That adds to the point that you are
Precisely,
making.
Chair.
Please.
That was a point I was going to make, and I'll point to the part of the record that the Chair is referring to, because we cannot rely on media reports in order to understand how we are to move forward on something as, as serious as this. So this is the reason for this communication. One, to express our concern, and two, to get a response on the record what exactly is happening. And so the letter went on to say that in the light of your client's scheduled appearance, this was 2 days before General Khan was due to appear. So the letter says, in light of his scheduled appearance, we request that you urgently inform the Commission of the facts. That's what's in the letter. Concerning the incident, the nature of the extent of his injuries, expected period of recovery. It went on to say, please provide a medical report from General Khan's attending physician to address these issues. Not because we doubt anything, but because the appropriate course of action by the legal representatives is to put the Commission in the know. That's why. And we said so. The final paragraph is just, in the letter says, this information is required so that the Chair may consider the position and issue such directions as may be appropriate regarding General Khan's scheduled appearance. That was the reason for the request. So the legal representatives were in possession of this letter before my learned friend addressed the media. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as Mr. Valley has now said, Ms. Wilsnack had contacted him on the morning of the event to alert him to this correspondence. So he had the contact number of Ms. Wilsnack, the attorney for the Commission. Why did he not pick up the phone and seek to verify the claims of the people who were purporting to be representatives of the Madlanga Commission, who were there trying to get access to General Khan? That would have been the appropriate course of action. They didn't do that. Now, which leads me to say that the responses that we are now receiving to the questions that are posed by the Chair regarding the content of this media briefing is a convenient, sort of after the fact, opportunistic response to the questions, because now, being faced with it, there's a gloss that's being applied to these answers, because none of this would have happened if what I'm saying had taken place, which is contact the Commission directly. You had the contact number, and you didn't do so. So the last part of the communications in the media briefing is what the Chair refers to, and that's so I'll give the Chair the reference. Yes, it is on page 10. And it's just above line 10. It's line 7, where my learned friend says, well, of course, he was due to appear on Wednesday. We await an indication from the Madlanga Commission as to the way forward. So on what basis was the Madlanga Commission going to be able to provide a way forward? Because there had been no formal communication between the legal representatives and the Commission's representatives. So I just wanted to make that clear, Chair. And certainly from the side of the evidence leaders and the legal team, there were no such instructions regarding any visits or any sort of directives to check on the physical condition of General Khan. One last point I wish to make in regard to this media statement. It is concerning the delivery of the information, disclosure of evidence on the weekend. And it was repeated.
If you are raising that in relation to the in-camera application, that application is withdrawn, or unless you Sorry.
Sorry, Chair. It's not just about the in-camera
All right,
application,
okay,
because
all
if
right,
it was
all right.
raised in relation only to the in-camera application,
Yes.
well, actually, I didn't even address it because I haven't responded to my
Yes,
amendment,
yes,
but it's
yes.
withdrawn.
Yes.
But this was made in the public. This was a media statement that seeks to convey an impression that there is unfair practices that are taking place in the Commission by the legal team, by the evidence leaders whatsoever in relation to General Khan. And that is incorrect, and it can't be allowed to stand. It is true that there was a volume of material that was provided to General Khan on the weekend. That information was the same information. First of all, it was information that it included information that had been provided to General Khan at the time of the answering affidavit in the urgent application, which was around the end of the first week of June. One set of chats, which was the chat between General Khan and Mo Sayed. And then it included all of the information that had been provided on 15th June, what my learned friend complained about, these spreadsheets, the WhatsApp communications, these lengthy lines of communications in the spreadsheets. That was provided to my learned friend on the 15th of June. What was provided on the weekend was a more usable format of exactly the same information, an easier to read format of the information, and in fact, a truncated version of that information, because by then we had curtailed exactly what it is we wish to refer to when we were going to be questioning General Khan. So it was a subset of information that had been provided on the 15th of June. What was new was the financial information, and what was included there were financial disclosure forms that General Khan had provided to his employer over a period of several years, which we wished to question General Khan on, because when you look at that, together with his finances and his financial position, the two do not tally. So in order to alert the legal representatives that we would be doing that, we provided the financial disclosures and then the bank information, and there was a summarized version of the financial, of the bank account information. It was in a spreadsheet which said in globular terms, these are the companies in which you have a shareholding or in which you are director, this is the inflow and outflow of the finances in these companies, summarized in the spreadsheet. Of course, we provided the underlying documentation, the underlying data, so that if the legal representatives wanted to look at any particular line item and check the workings in the spreadsheet, they may do so. That's what it was. So the suggestion that they could not have provided a statement, and Chair, this is also an important point. We never received...
Before you move on to that point, just to confirm, at page 8, Mr. Khan said, so of recent days, we have had the Madlanga Commission on Friday deliver some 37,000 lines of WhatsApp material. And then he goes on to say, and yesterday, as late as yesterday, they delivered some 8,000 pages of further documentation. Is this correct or not, from what you're saying now?
I'm not sure what I think the 37,000 lines of WhatsApp material is what was provided on 15th of June. What was provided on the weekend was it wasn't lines of WhatsApp communication. It was the actual depiction of those WhatsApp chats as the commissioners are familiar with when we take witnesses through. So it looks like what you see on your phone. That's what was provided.
Do you provide 8,000 pages as at yesterday of the incident? Of this
the 8,000 pages would have included the WhatsApp communications, which ran to over 6,000 pages. That's true. But as I said, that body of evidence was a subset of what had already been provided. It's not new material, and in fact it was in a more, as I say, usable format for General Khan's purposes. So it's not true that there was new information.
Thank you.
Just a minute, Mr. Sim. Yes, Mr. Sim.
So, Chair, I mean, all of this was meant to you know, I presume, no, there's one more point in the media briefing that's important. And that is at page, it starts at the bottom of page 2. And it's around line 22. And this is where my learned friend says the following: he has been, and that's General Khan, actively participating and preparing himself to testify and fully cooperate with the Madlanga Commission, and he intended this Wednesday to fully lay bare involvement of senior members of the South African Police Services in certain offences and criminality, as well as speaking to criminal syndicates and what appears to be interference designed to destabilize certain portions of our community. Now, Chair, we never received a statement that addresses any of these issues. Those issues, I presume, would have not been dependent on the information that we provided General Khan. This is what he says he intended to lay bare. And that statement could have been provided to the Commission at any time. In fact, it could have been provided to the Commission before a Regulation 10.6 notice was issued to General Khan. These particular topics, we have not ever received a statement from the Commission setting this out. So that was never in the Commission's possession at any time, let alone at the time that the in-camera application was made.
Is it not possible that a point might be made that his submissions could not have been expected to be piecemeal, and that he would have wanted to make one submission addressing everything?
I would want to hear that submission in full in order to respond to it, because even if that is so, there's no reason for why, and we can go through the 10.6 notice. I don't propose to do so. The information that was requested in the 10.6 notice was information that General Khan could have answered. It wasn't dependent on information, further information from us. So why I'm pointing out this paragraph is because it seems to suggest that it is this kind of information that General Khan was going to reveal to the Commission that put him at risk. But we never received a statement that sets out what I've just read out from this statement, Chair. So, Chair, those are the submissions I wished to make from the perspective of the evidence leaders on the media statement, because we took objection to the content of the statement.
But also, Ms. Hassim, if he didn't file this, as I recall, the 10.6 notice fixes a date by which a statement must be submitted.
Correct.
So that would have been the case here. And if he didn't file by that day, you couldn't claim that he was cooperating with the Commission.
In fact, he had not complied.
Yes.
And we then granted an extension.
Yes.
And then he did not comply. In fact, the last communication on when the statement was going to be delivered was along the lines of, we can't comply with your deadline. We will file it when we are ready, and it will be sometime. It will be before the 1st of July. And in fact, it never came.
Thank you.
Ms. Hassim, oh, by the way. Yeah. Ms. Hassim, I'm quite mindful of the fact that the application for an in-camera hearing has been withdrawn. But on the issue of how we are going to proceed, is it fine if we just await the outcome of the engagements in terms of paragraph 23.4 of the answering affidavit? Or let me just ask the broad question, how are we going to, or is that something that, yes, let me hear you, let me just hear you.
Well, the in-camera application has been withdrawn.
Yes, that's
So-
that's why I prefaced the point that I'm
So
making.
we're going to proceed as we proposed,
Yes,
which is
yes.
to lay out the evidence
Yes, yes.
before the commission
Yes,
that we've advised we wish to traverse.
yes,
It concerns topics that were raised in the answering affidavit, but not only the evidence that was attached to the answering affidavit,
Yes.
because the topics, for example, the improper use of one's position to benefit an enterprise that has criminal allegations attached to this enterprise. There's a range of evidence that's relevant to that topic. So the evidence would be what we deem to be material that can't ever be subject to some form of confidentiality because it concerns tenders and the like. The second is, so I've covered the two. It's what's in the answering affidavit, additional evidence that's relevant, and third, evidence in relation to General Khan's, the financial position, wealth and lifestyle. Those are the issues we wish to put before the Commission, and given that the application has been withdrawn, we see no reason why we shouldn't proceed along that basis. What we can engage my learned friends on is additional evidence that that General Khan has said he wants to put before the Commission and that he has concerned about. Now, what my learned friend didn't talk about was paragraphs 27 to 46 of their founding affidavit. So I presume that that is the evidence that is of concern in those paragraphs. And we can engage my learned friends on that and how we deal with it and when we deal with it. So that is separate from what we will be wanting to proceed with on Friday.
Ms. Hassim, I thought it was not so much the content, but the procedure. How do you intend to proceed on Friday in the absence of General Khan? So if you can just address that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Not so
Commissioner
much
Kumar.
the content
So
of-
it's not without precedent. We would follow the same kind of approach that was followed when a previous witness, Mr. Van Wyk, was unable to be present. And the evidence is led, and that does not mean that the witness, in this case General Khan, wouldn't have an opportunity to respond. In due course, he would have an opportunity to
So
respond.
in summary, the evidence leaders intend to present that evidence to the Commission, and if General Khan at any point should come back, he can respond to that.
That is correct.
Those
Those are my submissions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Hassim. Mr. Khan, you may respond, but of course, I proceed from the premise that I do not expect you to again traverse the ground that we traversed, which led to an unreserved apology with regard to two aspects that you and I debated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I say no more than my conclusion of an unreserved apology and regret for the ambiguity that has been raised here. My attorney would like to, however, say something in respect of Ms. Hassim's address regarding the documentation, if he may.
As you know, the practice where there's a leader, either the attorney or the junior will whisper to the leader, and then the leader will present.
Yes, I'm not wanting to speak on behalf of him in respect of matters particularly within his knowledge.
All right.
When he is present.
Okay, in the interest of time, we'll do that, but I hope it's not something that will recur. Yes, Mr. Valley.
Not at all. Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity. I just want to mention two things, Chair. Ms. Vilsnach had contacted me, and the telephone call was opportune because that was in the morning. It was, I think, after 10 o'clock, and I can check for accuracy if Chair requires me to do so. But at the time, we were still engaging with the hospital manager in our office with SEPS members in order to bring clarity to the question of who's authorized to be there and what they're authorized to receive, and also balancing what the hospital's processes and policies were. Ms. Vilsnach wasn't the only person who contacted me. I'm just checking on my email. Mr. Kerwin Pokpas of DI Attorneys also contacted me. And we had spoken briefly about how we saw the matter to proceed and how they intended to see the matter to proceed. And there was a suggestion that we convene a meeting with the evidence leaders who I understood was not available for the duration of that day. So it's not as if we simply sat back on our haunches and did nothing. We had engaged with Mr. Pokpas telephonically. He then sent us correspondence late that afternoon, and then later in the evening with their proposals on a redaction. So Mr. Pokpas, if I can summarize the position that he had given to me, was, we see your application for in-camera proceedings. However, our view and the evidence leader's view is that there's no application to hold the in-camera proceedings in camera. So we're not sure what you intend to address in the in-camera proceedings because, and please, Mr. Chair, I don't intend to address on the merits of the in-camera that's now disposed, but simply to give you context and insight into the conversation. It was, we don't believe you've given sufficient facts, and we say if we give too much facts, then we defeat the application itself. So let's talk about the redaction. That's what came later that evening, was the proposals on redaction. The next morning, I was able to respond to that proposal where I invited their insight or their recommendations on how they intended to proceed. So it places that statement that Ms. Hassam drew attention to earlier when she addressed Chair on, we invite the Commission to tell us what to do. So the engagement regarding how we thought the matter should proceed had occurred with my counsel prior to the statement to the media, but the engagement with Mr. Pokpas occurred subsequent, and therefore we could only come back the next morning. I just wanted to clarify the point that we were engaging not only with Ms. Vilsnach, but with somebody else as well. And then the second point, Mr. Chair, is that there were 3 disclosures, in fact. The initial disclosure, which occurred on the 15th of last month, involved the provision of Excel spreadsheets together with media files. Now, it's very difficult for us to determine the exact number of media files, but we estimated it to be between the order of 1,500 and 2,000 individual images or videos. So one can't really give an accurate picture there. We were left with an Excel spreadsheet, in fact 2 Excel spreadsheets, which in total came to 370,000 odd individual line items. When we say individual line items, we mean each individual message with what appears to be metadata, timestamps, the content, the sender identification, and the receiver identification. That's 370,000 of those line items, which we now have to go through and try to make sense of. So, in as much as Ms. Hassam says that they tried to put it in a better format, I agree. But that came a few days later, and I believe it was on the Thursday evening before the weekend's incident. That Thursday evening, we received a USB stick and a link to a Dropbox folder. And that had a number of the WhatsApp chats, which later then carried over to the final disclosed bundle. But not only that, it contained file metadata and a host of other documents which appeared to be forensic documents giving an indication of accuracy or authenticity, which we couldn't really go into. We were interested in the chats. That came to a number of pages, which we didn't calculate at the time. We were simply trying to put it into a better format. Before we could complete that, Chair, that's when the third disclosure came, which was on Saturday afternoon, and a second email on Saturday evening, this past weekend. And we tallied up the pages. That was 11,373 pages had we printed those documents as they stood in 3 files. File 1 was what Ms. Hassam describes, and I accept what she describes, a more streamlined version of the WhatsApp chats. And our estimation was that was about 6,000 to 6,500 pages of WhatsApp chats. What was new was the affidavits that form part of file 2, together with transcripts, which we hadn't seen as part of a disclosure, together with some other information, and the financial information, which, and I accept that there was a summary, or what appeared to be a summary in Excel format, and the source documents as well. All of that came to what we predict, or what we estimate to be about 5,000 additional pages. Now, it's not that we can simply take it at face value, because the Excel spreadsheets were the source documents on which the summaries were based. And when we consulted General Khan, our client, on Sunday, he said the figures can't be right, so we needed to interrogate that. So it's not as if this was information that we should readily have at our fingertips. We needed to firstly read it, understand it, engage with our client, be directed to the right person to give us definitive answers, and all of that takes time. So just to place it in that context, Chair, I think you would then perceive the difficulties that we were trying to describe from that position. And in relation to the media statement regarding the information of what General Khan intended to address to this commission today, what my learned friend Mr. Khan had said in his affidavit regarding the headings, there's information regarding these rubrics that we had given, perhaps not in the detail that the evidence leaders expected or required of us, but it certainly was mentioned. And I don't want to mention it here because then I'm going to defeat the very purpose of that application. It was mentioned. It doesn't come out of nowhere, and that's the point that I try to make to Chair. I'll leave my submissions there unless Chair has any further questions for me.
No, it's not to you, Mr. Valley. I'm just wanting to confirm whether I had understood Mr. Khan earlier on the last submissions of Ms. Hassam, and specifically how she proposes to proceed on Friday. I thought you had earlier said you would want to address that on Friday morning. Did I mishear? And if I heard you properly, is that still your position? Just so that there's no confusion about where we land.
We are uncertain at this time because we intend engaging on a number of issues. Of course, if we are unable to reach agreement or consensus on those issues, then we would look to you for directions on Friday.
Thank you.
The one thing for me, we would appreciate if you come back to us earlier than 9:30. We don't want to find out for the first time at 9:30 that there's another interlocutory application.
Absolutely.
Ms. Hassam, it looks like we are done, or is there anything else you think needs to be raised? I'm not affording you an opportunity to respond.
I don't need to respond to that.
Yes.
Chair, there was just one thing which I think my learned friend said was an offer to provide the J88 form in response to our letter of the 29th.
Yes, there was that.
So
yes.
if that could be made available. And then
Yes. May we leave it to the attorneys to interact on that, and I'm sure it will definitely be availed. Mr. Khan having made the point earlier today. Yeah.
Yes, Chair. Thanks.
Yes.
So that's the only point, really. And then we can adjourn. There is another hearing in camera to take place.
Yes. A ruling was made yesterday that we would hear the evidence of witness L in camera, so we'll basically adjourn for the day, and we will resume at 9:30 tomorrow morning in open session. Let's adjourn.
Thank you, Chair.
the commissioners, within the evidence leaders, but there are police officers involved in these incidences that General Khan was concerned about. And that concern was carried over by his family to the police trying to get access to him on the morning of the incident. But lastly, I say, and I qualify this, but at this stage it is speculative, it is speculated by the family, if that assists, Commissioner.
You see, this is not only about what you intended to convey, but it is also about how reasonable listeners would have understood this. You are saying this in the context of General Khan having been shot. And in that context, you mention leaks or compromise, or what did you mean by compromise? I understood it, and I believe myself to be a reasonable listener. I understood you to be referring to leaks from or by the commission.
Absolutely not.
And I also understood that to go back to the context in which General Khan was shot. So all of that, when you look at it holistically, it suggests that we served the commission late last night. He gets shot after service of the documents, and there are leaks within the commission. When you look at the totality of all that, it does suggest, or it may reasonably suggest to a reasonable listener, that you are basically saying that as a result of the leak, General Khan, or rather, General Khan may well have been shot as a result of the leak from the commission. That would, or that's a possible way in which a reasonable listener would have understood what you said.
May I reply?
Yes.
I unqualifiedly, before you and the media, say that that is not my instructions, and that is most certainly not what I intended to communicate to the media with my attorney and family members of General Khan present.
Thank you. May I say this then? If you are ever to make media briefings again, be careful of what you say and don't say anything that may tend to impugn the integrity of this commission. You should be very careful about that.
I note what you say.
Are you within what's colloquially referred to as the organized bar, or are you a so-called independent?
Organized bar.
Organized bar. Well, as I know them, having been a member of the so-called organized bar for many, many years, there was, I'm not saying there should still be, because even within the bar sometimes there may be disagreement, but there was a rule that said members of the bar can only go out to the media, be interviewed, and make statements to the media after having received permission from their bar. Otherwise, you don't just go out there and make. I repeat, I'm not saying that that rule should still continue to exist. Perhaps some might even say, does that not infringe the right to freedom of expression, and so on and so on. But the point I make is, if that rule still exists, and without it having been removed from the rules of the so-called organized bar, I wonder whether you got the permission, or if you didn't, what your basis for engaging in this in the first place was. But anyway, that's not for me. I'm just stating that that's how, as someone who once was a practitioner, that's how I know the rules to have been. I don't know if they still are. Anyway, you have said that that was not your intention, and I've already admonished you never ever to make statements that may tend to impugn the integrity of the commission. Let me move on to a